Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
Education is the birthright of every child, and it is intricately linked with the eradication of poverty. Children excluded from learning opportunities are among the most vulnerable and hard to reach in the world. They come from the poorest households and often have to work to help support their families. Ashok Leyland's Road to School is a unique CSR campaign that aims to provide equitable and inclusive quality education that allows every child to go to school and learn. Road to School works in close collaboration with local government schools and incorporates various unconventional teaching methodologies to push late bloomers into the mainstream. Starting in Anchetti and Shulagiri near Ashok Leyland's Hosur manufacturing facility, the initiative has now expanded to 3 more regions, impacting the lives of 19,700 students across 153 schools. Hello and welcome to this brand new series, India's Most Responsible Companies. Through this series, we are exploring some of the efforts that India Inc. is taking to give back to society. From education and healthcare to building infrastructure for the underprivileged, there's a lot that companies are doing to live up to their corporate social responsibility. On the show today, we are exploring the endeavors of Ashok Leyland, and to tell us more, we are joined by Vinod K. Dasuri, the CEO and Managing Director of the company. Mr. Dasuri, thank you so much for being with us on the show. First up, congratulations. It's the 70th birthday of Ashok Leyland.
Yes, absolutely. And we are celebrating that in a unique manner as well.
Wonderful. So we're exploring what makes Ashok Leyland, this 70-year-old Ashok Leyland, a very responsible company.
70-year young.
70-year young Ashok Leyland, a very responsible company. So first up, let's talk about this whole idea of corporate social responsibility. Do you think India Inc. as a whole needs to do a lot more than it's doing?
Absolutely agree. I think there is so much demand for work that in our villages, in our rural communities, and even our urban areas, where due to lack of budget, or sometimes and possibly more due to lack of proper management capability and administration capability, things are not getting done.
Right.
So this is where the corporates need to step in and do a lot more than what has been done before.
Right. But also, do you think a lot of the efforts by India Inc. as a whole need to be a lot more collaborative than they are right now? Because companies like you, and there are many others doing some brilliant work on the field, but all of you are operating in sort of silos. So won't it be a much larger impact if you kind of collaborated on certain aspects?
No, I think that's a brilliant thought. First, this entire CSR becoming mandated in India is just a few years old. So every company is finding its way. What should they be focusing on? What is of area of interest? What are the areas of require the support in the communities in which the companies operate? So as they evolve, I'm sure they will find that they are also doing something. Let us work together. We're already reaching that stage, and I think over the next couple of years, this will become a lot more prevalent.
Right. And talking of that mandate that you just mentioned, it is mandatory now for companies of a certain size to invest in CSR activities, but there's been considerable debate on that within the corporate sector. What's your view? Is it good to make CSR mandatory, or in order for it to come from the heart, it should always be a voluntary exercise?
Oh, I think, first of all, my personal view is that it should be mandatory. While there is a lot of personal involvement or personal commitment from the companies to say, I want to do something, often they are restricted by other priorities like how much shareholder wealth am I creating or not. If there is a mandate, well, there is a mandate, so you have to do. That helps the companies make that decision much more easily. What should not be mandated is how I spend my money. The fact that I should spend my money on CSR is a good mandate to have. We sometimes get some letters for saying, please use your CSR budget to do this. They don't force us, but they suggest that I should use my CSR budget to do that or this. That should not be mandated. That should be left to the company. Find your area of interest, find where you are passionate about and do those things.
So at Ashok Leyland, what's the larger philosophy behind CSR? And you have this tagline of Aapki Jeet, Hamari Jeet. Does that tie in well with your CSR initiatives as well?
Two things drove us. First, the founder of our group, Hinduja Group, has 5 principles that he believes in. And one of them is that my dharma is to work so that I can give. That's an overriding philosophy. When it comes down to Ashok Leyland, we say our philosophy, our brand philosophy is Aapki Jeet, Hamari Jeet. That not just applies to the customer, it applies to the supplier, the dealer, the employee, and the community at large with whom we come across.
Right.
Wherever we go, we want Ashok Leyland to be successful, but not by stepping on somebody, but by taking people along in this journey of success. So community should be proud of the fact that Ashok Leyland is around. They should involve us. They should feel happy that Ashok Leyland is around. So that's why it is important that Aapki Jeet, Hamari Jeet applies to the community as well.
Right. And as of now, how large are your CSR investments?
Our focus outside our plants has been on primary education in remote villages. So we have selected, for example, we started, rather than go pan-India, we said let's start in the Tamil Nadu where our corporate headquarters is. And I think we have now targeted about 150 plus schools. And we do very detailed intervention, both at education level, meals, water, everything to make sure, books, infrastructure facilities, sanitation facilities inside these schools to make sure that they are upgraded substantially.
Right.
The initial results are so pleasing that we want to now see how we can take it to other states.
Right. And apart from education, what are the other sectors that you're focusing on as far as CSR is concerned?
Well, firstly, only on education, it's not like we just gave this money to somebody else and said, go do it. One of the things that we said we will target is our own involvement. Every one of these schools has an Ashok Leyland person attached to it, sometimes 2 people attached to it. We have 9 people team only focused on CSR for primary schools in Tamil Nadu. So it's active engagement from the company. It's not, like I was saying, it's not just about money, it's also about management. So how do we manage these CSR programs? Inside the company, also because it's our 70th year, we said that our plants must be environmentally responsible.
Right.
So we should not consume water, we should not dispose our effluents into the water, we should plant as many trees. I give you an example. When we started with the Pantnagar facility, there was 1 tree in the entire site. We built the factory making sure that that tree is not cut down. And since that time to today, over 60,000 trees have been planted. A very large pond has been created. You see migrant birds come in. More than 40% of the area is green cover. So the ambient temperature of that region has come down because of activities like this.
As a company, you really promote innovation, within your employees and within the organization as well. How do you also promote the culture of giving back to society? You have a number of CSR activities running. How do you engage employees in each of these?
Very good question. First and foremost, we make sure that every school that we operate in or every project that we do, it's not how much money we spend, but how many employees are involved. So employees feel proud that I am doing something beyond. I mean, we had a group of people who would go and say every Sunday we go out and we clean temples. So what does the company do? We provide them a bus and a meal. That's all. Rest is all their effort. Similarly, if somebody wants to go clean a lake, somebody wants to go plant some trees, we will support it wholeheartedly. But the effort and the ideas and the innovation has to come from the employees. So all our schools have employees who are like the godfathers for that school. So we encourage that. But more in a formal manner, all our leadership development programs include an element of them working outside of work. The only way somebody can learn good leadership skills is if he can lead somebody, he or she can lead somebody who does not report to them. There is no KRA, there is no performance appraisal, now lead. When you can survive and succeed in an environment where there is no formal performance appraisal policies and yet lead people to the right destination, that will teach them better leadership. So there is a hidden agenda beyond involving employees into the CSR activities.
So going forward, 70th year this year, what's your vision for Ashok Leyland as far as CSR is concerned? Where do you want to take the company? What is the sort of impact that you want to create?
When we started off the CSR activity, there was hundreds of ideas that we had that we could focus on. We said, let's focus on one or two things and do it right. So as far as Ashok Leyland is concerned, we said, beyond the fact that our plants will be truly green in all respects, trees, water, effluent treatment, all of that.
Right.
Outside our plants, we will have, near our plants, we will have lakes and all. But the true CSR work that we will do will be focused on primary education. We believe this is where we can make the biggest, deepest societal impact over the long run. There were people who said you should focus on higher education so that it is connected to your business, but sometimes it's too late. So we said we must focus on primary education. It's the toughest, but we decided we will be an inch wide but a mile deep in things that we do. Focus on few things but do them very well, better than anybody else can do. So recently we also won Asia's Best CSR Award. It's not about awards. We want to get this done so well, package this and then go to other parts of the country, because there is a lot more requirement of this across the country.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Mr. Dasari. Well, let's take a short break at this point, but stay with us because on the other side, we'll continue to explore why Ashok Leyland is one of India's most responsible companies. Stay with us. Welcome back to our special series, India's Most Responsible Companies. On the show today, we are exploring some of the unique initiatives that Ashok Leyland has picked up as part of its corporate social responsibility. Road to School is one such unique program that's aiming to improve access to education in the rural hinterlands of India. And to tell us more about this, we are now joined by N.V. Balachandar, President, CSR, Human Resources and Communications at Ashok Leyland. Bala, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Pleasure to be on the show too.
First up, Road to School. That's a pretty unique initiative that Ashok Leyland has started out with. It's been about 3 years. How did the idea come about and why the focus on education in particular?
The genesis of this started 3 years ago when the CSR guidelines came about, and while Ashok Leyland was engaged in a series of initiatives in the past in terms of community development, be it health, be it education, be it donations to public institutions, a bit of road safety, a bit of driver safety, we felt it is important for us to focus on one agenda which we could make a significant impact. And the board as well as the senior leadership of Ashok Leyland felt it appropriate to choose education, because if we are able to provide quality primary education, we will be able to build a better society for the future.
What are the basic tenets of Road to School? How does this program work and what are the objectives that you're trying to achieve with it?
We consciously chose to work with schools which are very, very remotely located. Second, chose schools where the teacher-student ratio was not in line with the national averages. And third, where the learning levels of the existing school is far below the national or the state average. So these were the three broad tenets that we decided to choose in our choice of defining which school that we would like to go to. Because if you look at the philosophy of Road to School is to use education as a social leveler.
Right.
So that education gives confidence, self-respect and a certain standing in the society, so that that educated child is able to stand up for his rights in the societal milieu that we are currently operating in.
Right. And what are the geographies that you're targeting with this program, and how many people have you impacted so far in the last 3 years?
Today we are operating in about 153 schools and covering over 19,000 children.
That's wonderful to hear. But at the grassroots level, what sort of transformative change have you seen within these areas with the kids you've worked with? Tell us about some success stories or some change that you've seen?
Significant impact that we've been able to create, and this is apart from the learning improvements that we've been able to showcase over the last 3-year periods. In year 1, we had almost a 30% increase in the average learning levels. Year 2, we cumulatively added about another 16%. So effect over the period of 2 years, the third year is yet to be assessed, we have made an impact of almost about 17 to 18% in terms of learning levels. The social impact which we are more proud of is one very clear example that I can talk about is there was a lot of challenge initially when we started out to build toilets and to build infrastructure, and we said, sorry, we will not build toilets and we will not invest in infrastructure. Our role is to improve learning, and our role is to ensure that the children have sustained changed behavior.
Right.
So we started to focus on health and hygiene. We taught the children the hygiene of using closed toilets. We taught the children the hygiene of using water to wash their hands. We taught the children to drink water. These children, after having seen and observed, and also, we showed them a lot of movies and a lot of snippets, they have started to now influence the parents to build toilets. So in one particular village, we've been able to build 13 toilets by the insistence of the children with their parents. And this is very clearly visible when you visit the schools in the villages that we have chosen to work.
In Road to School, how do you identify the late bloomers, as you call them, the students who are perhaps below the class average at this particular point in time, and what kind of content are you building for them? What kind of activities are you building for them to bring them up to the class average? And how are these in sync with what government schools are already teaching them?
We partnered with Learning Links Foundation, which is an NGO based in Delhi, and they conduct what we call as the baseline tests. The baseline test actually tests the children on the previous class learnings. So if a child is in second standard, and moving on to the third standard, at the base level, we test the child on the second standard syllabus. And we have a cutoff mark which we decide mutually. And those who fall below the cutoff mark in terms of basic learning capabilities which are assessed in the test, we place them as what we call as resource children. So these resource children are then taken through a 1-hour class per day by resource persons who are employed by us and trained by LLF in providing special learning and in providing additional inputs through what we call as the learning enhancement program.
Right.
So this is a very defined teaching learning methodology which the resource persons are trained on, and they administer it to these children. Also, we are very conscious that these late bloomers are not treated as something independent or separate. They are part of the mainstream. It is just that 1 hour a day they get additional inputs so that they are able to understand concepts, they are able to understand basic learnings, and then move on to the mainstream.
So going forward, any new CSR projects in the pipeline that you want to talk about, and what can we expect more from Ashok Leyland in the near future?
Well, we are constantly revisiting our Road to School program, and year 1 we started with 36 schools, we went on to 72 schools in year 2, 100 schools actually in year 2, and then we extended it by another 45 schools in Ecological. So we hope to sustain this over the next period of 2 to 3 years. And we've started to extend this by creating model schools in the areas that we work, and the model schools would be as good as any private school in the locality, providing for quality education, IT enabled education with a resource and a technology center built in within, and also having all administrative mechanisms and IT enabled assessment tools, so that there is quality education even provided for these children. In addition to that, we have invested in mobile libraries, and we have invested quite significantly in providing a sports infrastructure by partnering with EduSports. We are using sports not only in terms of getting excitement among the children, but also teach them competitiveness,
Right.
teach them collaboration, teach them team skills, and also the willingness and the ability to participate in physical activity which they have not been used to. And also this we have seen helps excitement in them, and also we've been able to assess that their fitness levels and endurance as well as agility levels have really improved over a period of time. The very fact that they just focus on some physical activity which they have not been. And here I would certainly thank the district authorities and the school authorities for having granted us 2 periods of physical education for every class every week. So it has helped in that way.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure to be on the show too.
Well, with that, it's a wrap of this episode of India's Most Responsible Companies. Hope you enjoyed those insights into the endeavors that Ashok Leyland is making to give back to society. Thanks for joining us. Goodbye.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.